So Susan, there was a significant change for Mission Management and Trust Company just a couple of years back. Can you talk about that a little bit and how that's
Sure.
afforded new opportunities for our trust company?
Sure. So Mission is a standalone independent trust company. What that means is that we're not a trust department of another financial institution. We're separately licensed, regulated, examined, in our case, by the Arizona Department of Insurance and Financial Institutions. A little over 2 years ago, we were acquired by Notre Federal Credit Union. What does that mean? Well, it means that the credit union acquired the shares that the previous owner had of Mission. We still operate as a standalone independent trust company. And there's terrific synergies that go with the credit union and the trust company coming together. Let me give you a couple of examples. One in particular came to very strong light last spring as there were some financial institutions that were failing. They got out a little over their skis a little bit. Their investments started to get underwater at a time when the Federal Reserve was raising interest rates very fast. And what that did was trigger a little bit of a panic about depositors at institutions that had amounts above and beyond the FDIC insurance or the NCUA insurance for the credit union. And so some of the members of the credit union were in that situation. They had more than $250,000 on deposit with the credit union. And Mission was able to come to the table with a cash management strategy, a couple of other kind of similar service lines that allowed those clients, those members, to become clients of Mission's and invest some of the excess cash with Mission and provide good, safe cash management alternatives. So that's one example. And then another is one that you've been really closely involved with. There have been a number of times over the years where Mission wanted to try to arrange for a loan for a trust. And we would call the financial institutions around town, including people that we knew and had relationships with, and we couldn't get any of them to even really carry the conversation. Most of them just said, yeah, sorry, we can't do that. And yet there are real problems that exist that sometimes that's the best way to solve those issues. And so I want to ask you to talk about one of the situations that you were involved with, how Mission being attached to an organization that can provide credit helps solve a problem.
No, happy to do so because when I was a practicing attorney, that was a challenge and frustration as well on that side of the fence. So oftentimes the population we work with, they don't have any earnings. They don't have a credit history. They didn't otherwise have net worth until such time as they acquired whatever that wealth is that they have now. So traditional lending institutions won't even talk to them or us. And so with the relationship with the credit union, and I think it really goes to the mission of the credit union, which is our mission too, even though maybe it wasn't verbalized in the same way until now, is really about helping the community and going to them and speaking to where they are in that moment in time. And if we can help, we will.
It's people over profit.
It's people over profit. As I often say, we don't lead by dollars. We lead by relationship. And if we can make this work and it works for everyone, we're going to go into that relationship with you and make it positive. So the couple of circumstances have been, limited wealth. Somebody needs a home. And if they're buying it in all cash, then they're left with very little liquidity. That's oftentimes the case, especially with individuals who have a disability and they get a recovery. They've otherwise been indigent. They have this pot of money. They don't want to spend all of it on the house that they need to provide for their living arrangement and long-term security. Mm-hmm. But no one will loan them money or allow for them to get a mortgage. Well, we have been able to do that lending situation with the credit union so that we're not taking up all the cash.
Right.
And so that's one example. The other example is we have had the opportunity to serve as what's called a conservator, where we're appointed by the court to manage the estate of an individual who is disabled and can't manage his own affairs. And it was a very unfortunate circumstance where that individual's father, his last surviving parent, who had been his guardian of his person and conservator of his estate, died unexpectedly. And this individual had lived at home with his father for many years, and that was the environment that he was familiar with. He needed round-the-clock care. That round-the-clock care was costing tens of thousands of dollars a month. We did not have access to assets yet that weren't in our institution.
We can't do that overnight.
No,
That takes
it takes time.
Right.
Hello, we're the conservator. Yes, here's the paperwork that verifies we have authority. Then there's all kinds of internal processes at outside institutions to verify that authority and allow for us to have access to funds. So to bridge that gap when we needed to meet this young man's needs, the credit union saved the day. They provided for a line of credit for that duration that allowed us to continue to meet this individual's needs. And the credit union worked outside the box. They didn't have the traditional documentation that they normally would require, but there were enough avowals and documentation that supported this arrangement that they were able to make that happen. So that is very unique to the Notre Dame Federal Credit Union.
Yeah, those are having been on the side of asking for some help from institutions and not being able to find anybody that even would have the conversation. To see that in action over a very short period of time, it's and not that it was easy to do, but we got it done, and it really made a difference for us. Another place where I see benefit today is with something as simple as a credit card, where the trust is the guarantor or the obligor for the credit card, and it's not the individual who's no longer capable of filling out an application even, might not even be able to understand the implications of having that credit card, but the caregiver needs a card to be able to pay for sundry items, for example, or things that help support care. And nobody is going to do that kind of lending out there. So.
That's absolutely true. Another value added is the insurance services available through Mission Insurance. And so, we often have real estate that needs to be insured that maybe we otherwise aren't able to, or it doesn't make sense to go through the normal channels. Right. And so we can tap into those resources as well, or automobiles and the like. So, and we really are entrepreneurial and think outside the box, as is the credit union, and together we are more often than not able to arrive at a solution for most situations or circumstances.